Greetings, peace be with you. So in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you the 6 steps on how to become a high value man. Now, before diving into this video, let's just get on the same page, because all these words, high value man, alpha male, success, happiness, all of these words have different meanings according to our perspective. So let's just make sure we are agreeable on the definition that we set for this term high value man, so that you can make sure whether you want to stick to the end of this video or not. Because of course, if our definitions are going to be different, then there's no point following through with the steps that would lead you to a certain outcome, right? So in my perspective, in my vocabulary, in my lexicon, through my semantics, right, using all these words here, a high value man is one who has intense trust in his ability to create success, happiness, and well-being in his life. At the core, a high-value man is a thermostat rather than a thermometer. Okay, what does this mean? A thermostat dictates the environment. A thermostat dictates reality, dictates the circumstances, whereas a thermometer reacts to the environment, right? It's like if you're in a room, the thermostat is on. No matter what the temperature is outside the room, the temperature inside the room will be dictated by the thermostat. In the same way, a high value man is one who is proactively engaged in the process of choosing his reality, because he's confident in his ability to adjust reality to his own mental state, to his own hopes, to his own dreams, to his own ambitions. Rather than reacting to the way that things are, he imagines what they can be and then takes action towards creating them in that image. Okay, there's a quote that I heard, I'm not entirely clear on who said it. He said that the reasonable man adjusts himself to the world, but the unreasonable man persists in trying to adjust the world to himself. Therefore, all progress depends on the unreasonable man. Okay, a high value man, this fly over here is loving me right now, is unreasonable in his pursuit of creating his hopes, dreams, and ambitions into the structure of reality that he's experiencing right now. Okay, so if we can agree on that open-ended definition, right, at the end of the day, it's about coming to terms with all of these words that mean different things to different people. And if we can agree on the definition, on the core, then only then can we actually dive into the process, which I'm going to be sharing with you right now. Okay, there's a wild dog running around over here. Hopefully it doesn't come over here. Actually, I like dogs, but just when they don't have a collar, it's like, yo, does it have the rabies injection right now? Because they get territorial sometimes. But maybe you can see him, I don't know. So the first step to becoming a high value man is the process of waking up. Okay, and this is an ongoing process. I suspect this is gonna last forever, because it's really about elevating our awareness. Okay, elevating our awareness first and foremost of what we truly find valuable, elevating our awareness of whether our behaviors are in alignment with what we believe to be valuable, elevating our awareness of our very posture, elevating the awareness of our eye contact, elevating the awareness of how we sit, elevating our awareness of every little thing in our life. And this is, like I said, an ongoing process, because there's always more that we can be aware about. There's always more that we can learn about. There's always more that we can implement into our life, because there's always more that we can be aware of. And that's why I said this is an ongoing process. Like, what you are aware of right now is not the same thing that you were aware of when you were a child. And I think so many times we get caught up in expectations, in what other people want of us, in what society has conditioned for us into our minds since we were kids. And therefore our attention is focused on the external rather than that awareness of what we truly want in our lives, awareness on the heart's desires. Okay, and like I said, this is an ongoing process of constantly developing our awareness, elevating our consciousness, and understanding that there is always more to be learned. And that the more that we learn, the more that we realize that we've only glimpsed but the tip of the iceberg, right? Having that beginner's mind, always being open to elevating, because the more that we can elevate, right, we get to the top of the mountain and we realize that there's a view of an entirely new landscape right now, and then it's on to the next journey, right? A good life is one hero's journey after another, right? It's not like there will ever be an end point. At least that's what I think at this point in my journey, that there's never an end point. It's just a constant journey and exploration and expansion, right? The universe in itself is infinite, yet it is expanding. So how does that make sense? It's like there's always more, right? So the first step is like, it's a spiritual process of constantly elevating your awareness, of knowing that everything is something I can be aware about, and that's just a process of developing that and cultivating that in our journey, in our process, right? Now, the second step to becoming a high value man is to treat yourself like someone you are responsible for helping. Okay, I think this is the second rule in Jordan Peterson's 12 rules for life as well. But so many times I look back on my journey when I was at the lowest of low points, caught in a cycle of destructive habits. That was a point where I was in an adversarial relationship with myself, right? I didn't treat myself like someone I was responsible for helping. I treated myself through the lens of judgment, through the lens of shame, through the lens of guilt, through the lens of how could you do that, through the lens of you're not good enough, through the lens of who do you think you are, right? And making that switch, I think a lot of times comes through understanding that a lot of these negative voices in our heads are not even our own. They are what we picked up through childhood, and then we confuse our mind to be who we are, right? If we can really begin to cultivate that friendship with ourselves, to realize that we can help ourselves, to realize that if we have our own best interests at heart, is when we can begin making decisions that align with that best interest as well. But when we confuse those voices in our head to be who we really are, is when we get caught up in that chatter, is when we begin to engage in behaviors that don't really serve us, is when we go down that downward spiral. Okay, it's a slippery slope. I know because I've been there. I know because I thought that I was out, and then I would get back again and again and again. And again, this is something that, okay, man, like, if I was my own friend, like so many times we're caught up in an issue, right? And then we're just in that issue and we're in it and it's so hard to get out. But if our best friend comes to us, they're like, yo, man, I'm in this issue right now, then it's so easy for us to give them that perspective. No, this is exactly what you should do, right? We know the solutions to other people's problems because we have perspective. And we get caught up in our own problems because we're in it, right? So you can't read the label when you're in the bottle, right? So getting out, getting that perspective, treating yourself like someone you're responsible for helping, and constantly keeping your best interest at heart at the end of the day, right? That's step number 2. And making sure that you stick with that consistently over the long term. Anytime you get caught up in that game of shame, oh, who do you think you are? Oh, you're never going to amount to anything, right? It's like, that's not the game you want to play anymore. The game that you want to play is the equanimity game. As Marcus Aurelius would say, when force of circumstance upsets our equanimity, lose no time in recovering your self-control, and do not remain out of tune longer than you can help, because habitual recurrence to the harmony will strengthen your mastery over it. In other words, switch from the shame game to, putting yourself in this low situation, into the equanimity game where it's like, yeah, I fell off. Yeah, we all fall off. But how can I get back on track right here, right now? Okay? So important. So important. Now, the third step is to take ownership, okay? To take ownership of your dreams, your hopes, your ambitions, of what you want to see in this world, to create the change that you want to see in this world. You have to become that change. You have to become the expression of that change. But then it's like, a heart has a certain desire. Yeah, I want to go travel to these places. I want to go become a musician. I want to go release. I want to do all of this stuff, right? The heart doesn't think in terms of logic, but then the mind, which is rational and logical and analytical, just like turns the whispers of the heart off. It's like, no, who do you think you are? You don't deserve this. We have to take ownership for our dreams. We have to take ownership for our goals. We have to take ownership for our emotions. We have to take ownership for every single thing in our life. And when we do that is when we become powerful, okay? Because if we just discount these things, like your dreams, your hopes, your ambitions, your goals, if you don't take ownership for them, they will eat your soul alive. Okay, and that's why we see so many people who are soulless, because they never expressed who they are here to be. They never took ownership of who they are here to be. They never took responsibility for expressing the gifts that they have deep within them. And if we don't express our gifts, that is when they become a curse and they eat us alive, okay? Depression is the opposite of expression. We're experiencing a depression around the world, right? We have a depression crisis, mental health crisis. And I believe that's because we are not going through a system that allows us to cultivate our creative gifts in greatest service to the world. It doesn't allow us to creatively express ourselves, because even if we want to, we think, what's he gonna think, what's she gonna think, what's they're gonna think, as if what they think is more important than what I think of myself, right? It's very, very important to take ownership if you are serious and committed to this journey of becoming a high value man, okay? Now, the fourth step is to honor your wants, your needs, your desires, your hopes, your ambitions, right? That you take ownership of them. I'm going to honor them by making sure that my actions are in alignment with them, by expressing myself, by asserting myself, right? I'm going to honor what is true to me by living in alignment with that, right? And that links up to the fifth step, which is to practice purpose over pleasure, right? So it starts with knowing what it is that you want. It starts with knowing what your goals are, your hopes are, your dreams are, your ambitions are. And then, of course, it's going to be hard, right? We think that somehow it's going to be easy, but it only becomes simple once you accept how hard it is. I know I've said this on this channel so many times because it's something like a lesson that I reiterate to myself as well, that when we can consistently choose purpose over pleasure is when we are consistently moving forward into growth rather than to comfort, right? And choosing purpose over pleasure is to ensure that your thoughts, words, and behaviors are in alignment with what you deem valuable, rather than getting caught up in the temptation of instant gratification, and the temptation of what feels good right now but steals away at your future. Okay, that is a distortion of time, which is a construct which is really our inability to comprehend how our actions right here, right now, compound over time. And our inability to do that is what causes us to go down to choosing pleasure over purpose. But a high value man consistently, reliably, and over the long term really chooses purpose over pleasure. Okay, so important. And then ultimately this links into the sixth step, which is integrity, which is when you are congruent, which is when you are aligned, which is when your thoughts, your words, your behaviors, your actions, your emotions are in alignment. You are congruent. You are a high value man that is virtuous because what he says, what he thinks, what he does is in alignment. When it's not in alignment is when we have chaos. When it is in alignment, that is when we function at the peak of our capacity and the peak of our potential. And that really is the goal over here, right? To become a man of integrity that is high value because he lives according to his own values, right? Knowing what your values are and being consciously aware of the behaviors that you exhibit every single day on whether they are in alignment with those values or not. And then if those behaviors fall off, it's not about judging yourself, it's not about shaming yourself. It is about treating yourself like someone you're responsible for helping. Why did this happen, right? So that we get to the root cause, so that it doesn't happen again, right? And then the behaviors that you are acting with, it's like, are they giving me the results? Is the environment giving me the feedback that's showing me whether I'm making progress or not, right? Always running that objective awareness. And then if it's not, you iterate. And if it is giving you the results, then you just keep on doing what you're doing. And at the end of the day, when you are living with integrity is when you become a high value man, okay? So with that, I'll conclude this video. I hope that this has been valuable for you. Just some thoughts running through my mind as I take this morning walk. The sun is strong, straight in my eyes. Got some indirect sun gazing going on. But I hope you got value from this, okay? Let me know in the comments below what's the one thing that you are lagging in these 6 steps, right? So I'll do my best to help you out in that regard. I love opening up this conversation with you because that's really what it's about, right? Like the feedback on and off. Like I'm here making the videos, you're watching them. Let's open up that discussion. So leave a comment below. Let me know the one thing that is most resonant with you in this video. And yeah, man, like the video if you like it. Subscribe if you have not already. But I will leave you in the peace and power of the one infinite creator. Wishing you a very blessed week ahead. that you can continue and evolve on your journey and grow, and most importantly, treat yourself like someone you're responsible for helping. Okay, much love to you. Take care.